please.
Okay, so speaking from the perspective of a female leader in Toastmasters, as well as a lecturer of public speaking in an all-women-based university, I have experienced several instances of how women can actually contribute to society by speaking up more. We women have such rich experiences of motherhood, of adaptability to changes, of adjustments with new people, living with a new family after marriage. We can bring so many unique perspectives. I believe, we can enrich discussions and we can contribute to personal as well as professional growth. And women, in fact, can make a huge difference or huge impact even on world issues if we are given more opportunities to speak, by being more vocal and by speaking up more. And I also feel, in terms of communication and leadership, women are known to be empathetic and compassionate leaders. They are born to be like this by nature. They lead through hard work, passion, and drive for excellence. At the same time, they are highly emotionally intelligent. So our views matter, our opinions and our take on issues do matter. It's important that we take part in discussions, especially discussions like the one which we are having today. Why women should speak up. This is something which is giving us women an opportunity to raise our voice, to speak up and participate in public speaking leadership whenever, wherever we can. It's important to realize that beyond our traditional roles of housework and taking care of children, we have much more to contribute to this world. That is why it's important for women to speak up, to share their stories, their struggles, emotions with everyone. Okay, so this is what I believe. And thank you so much. Over to you, Toastmaster question.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Nusrat. Thank you so much. Moving on to Toastmaster Sylvia. Sylvia, we know why women need to speak up. Agreed that if women start speaking up, they will definitely contribute a lot to this world. What do you think? Is this agreeable, or do you have something else to add on to it?
Yeah, so I actually had a different take over here. So when we say women should speak up, yes, agreed. But we have now in today's day, we have this confidence culture where there is a lot of pressure on women to get there, speak up, ask difficult questions, get the job done. And the point I'm trying to make here really is gender is not binary. So it's more like a spectrum. So there is a way of being, you can be a woman in different ways. So everybody might not really be comfortable with speaking up or being the leader, and that is okay. In some cases, some women might choose to speak up, some women might choose to lead, and others might just play a supporting role. But whatever role it is, we should accept that, understand what we can contribute to the cause, and accordingly, support it. That's was my thought over there.
Okay, agreed that as per the situation, we need to speak up. Definitely. Moving on to distinguished Toastmaster Jaya. Jaya, what is your take on this topic? Or rather the question. You are on mute.
Thank you so very much, Toastmaster Rupasari. Have you ever asked people why is it important to eat? No, because we know that it's important to live. And it's inevitable for us to not communicate. And hence, I believe it's important to speak up for every human, no matter what gender, ethnicity, geographic location they belong to. But particularly women, it is important that they talk because there are already a marginalized group of people in the world, making half of the population of the world still not into most of the spaces, including academia, politics, sports. Even when I go out, I hardly see women around because we do not hear those voices. So when women speak up, and again, I would say that this term speak up is very subjective because it depends whether we are talking about a space where there is public speaking, we are talking about the space there is no transparency or fairness, in what kind of space we're talking about. I would say that no matter what kind of space is, every voice needs to be there. And since we live in patriarchal society where we do not see these voices coming up, it becomes crucial that they are there. And also it becomes equally important that when they are speaking up, these voices are being heard. Over to you, Rupasari.
So much agreed. Yes, of course. that is the reality that we need to bring into this picture, is that there are a huge number of women, or rather the percentage is so much more, who needs to be convinced, inspired, or made aware of how to speak up and why to speak up. What is your take on this, distinguished Toastmaster Simone?
Yes, thank you. I think that women need to speak up for so many reasons, and in particular for representation. So women's voices are so important for achieving diverse and inclusive representation in many fields, like politics, business, academia, and also media. By speaking up, women can ensure their perspective and ideas are heard and contribute to decision-making processes that impact society as a whole. And I want to give one example just briefly that is in the front of my mind, is the most recent former Prime Minister of New Zealand, Jacinda, I suddenly forgot her last name, but anyway, Jacinda Ardern. When she started out as the Prime Minister of the whole country, New Zealand, she was only in her 30s. So you can imagine this is a woman who rose up through the ranks in government in New Zealand. She most definitely spoke up. And during her period as Prime Minister, she served as a great role model for women who speak up. And because she spoke up and did such marvelous things like just ban the use of guns altogether, she had such an important impact on society as a whole in her country. So if we have more high-profile women in all of our individual countries who would speak up and do the things like what Jacinda Ardern did, the world would be a much better place. Back to you.
Yes, agreed, Simone, that the world can definitely be a beautiful place if women start speaking up. But however, it's a controversial topic. If women speak up, people start making joke out of it. Anyway, that's just a joke. If we can, I will share, I'll ask this question back to Simone. Simone, can you share an instance or an experience or an example where women had restricted themselves from speaking up? Can you bring up any situation?
Yes, I would like to use myself as an example. Early on in my career, I was lucky to have had the opportunity to take on a supervisory role, my very first supervisory role, very early in my career. I had two very good male mentors who I could see clearly they had my interests at heart, and they were mentoring me. And what I found my confidence by doing a good job early on as the supervisor. However, I was quite soon, maybe just months later, I was taken into the room of one of my bosses who happened to be one of my mentors. And he just cautioned me, I mean, in a very nice way. He cautioned me, maybe don't speak up so much and so strongly. Don't be so confident when you speak up. Maybe just be quiet sometimes, let others speak. And the others, so-called others, were all men. So I was the only female amongst this team. And I tell you what, even though with the help of my mentors, I did extremely well throughout my career. However, I carried this cautionary moment, if you like, this advice throughout my entire life. And really, it's only through after I retired in Toastmasters, I joined Toastmasters after I retired, that I really found that voice again. So I felt like I can be myself again and speak up when needed, of course, respectfully, but it's really something that I'll never forget, and it impacted me greatly throughout my entire career. Back to you.
Mm-hmm. So like, this makes us believe that there are situations and instances in our life which stops us at many times when we want to proceed or we want to take some steps ahead, it stops us from taking those steps. What is your take on this, Nusrat?
Thank you, Rupashri. Well, yes, if you were to ask me specific instances, I also would be giving my own example, but not as specifically as Simone, like how she faced her situation. But before joining Toastmasters, I too was a very shy and introvert person. So I would never participate in classroom discussions. I would never raise my hand when the professor would ask a question. I would see all my male counterparts raising their hands up and participating in discussions, participating, even if I knew the answers. I would never, I would shy away from raising my voice or, participating or speaking up. And I would often see that all the credit, all the applause would go to all the male students and all the female students. Why would I not participate is because other female students would also be shy of participating. So if there were other female students participating, it would be an example for me to participate as well. But I never saw that happen. Even when I joined Toastmasters initially, I had a lot of inhibitions. I was shy of taking up roles. But then, of course, Toastmasters is such a supportive platform where you cannot actually stay away, or you cannot, not participate for too long, because always your club members would convince you to take up and come forward. So after joining Toastmasters is where I also coincidentally found my voice, and I started taking part in everything, whether it's communication, whether it's leadership, or whatever role it was. So the moment I started, I realized that I have so much more to offer. I have so much more to inspire the female members. So I started taking up these roles. I started from the secretary, then went up to the vice president education, then the area director, of course, the president, followed by area director, and then division director. So many of the members in our club, I tried to convince them, and looking up at me, they have started taking up roles in the officer, in the executive committee positions, and so on and so forth. So I feel that if there are more women to inspire other women, then that's when we actually feel motivated to participate, or that's when we feel motivated to speak up. And when we are in the minority, like what happened with Simone, we are often ignored. So that is my take on this.
So I'll continue this question from you, answer from you, Nusrat. So what do you think was the main reason? Was the male counterpart the only reason, being you the minority in that classroom? Was that the only reason for you not speaking up? Do you think so?
It could, we have been in a society, it's a stereotype, I would say, because we have grown up seeing our mother being, soft-spoken and not being the one who was the major decision maker in the house. We have seen our fathers being the one who was the more outspoken person, the one who was taking all the decisions. So it's our society which shapes our personalities, I believe. And especially in our subcontinent, we see that, the men are the ones who are doing all the talking. And women are sometimes, they are neglected, they are ignored. But now times are changing. Of course, we have so many supportive platforms that are giving us this opportunity to speak up. But previously, lack of confidence, I think society, perceptions, stereotype, all of this would actually make, women hesitant to participate or to speak up more often.
Mm-hmm. What will you add on to this, Sylvia? Sylvia, are you there? Kindly unmute yourself. Yeah. So as Nusrat and Simone added on, the restrictions that we keep on ourselves from speaking up at situations. What is your take on this?
So again, a personal example comes to mind over here. So when I was a kid, we were at a public event, and a group of boys and girls, and one of the boys said something to my sister, and I got a little irritated and I started yelling at him. And this senior lady at the event, she came up to me and she took me aside, and she told me, little girl. And I actually liked this person. I used to look up to her. She was very poised and calm, and she had a really nice personality. She said, a little girl, you should behave like a lady, and you should not be yelling around. And of course, I went straight to my mom and complained about her. But that being said, it somewhere put the doubt in my mind that maybe I wasn't behaving ladylike, or I, I, I should have behaved differently in that situation. And actually, today, if I look back on it, I was just being a child, not a girl or a boy. I was just being a child and standing up for my sibling, which there was nothing wrong with it. But somehow I think culturally we saw that doubt in women, that maybe you have to be ladylike, you're not supposed to speak up, you have to think twice before speaking up. And already as women, we have so many questions in our mind before we really speak up, that this really adds on and piles on to that.
It's a very, very strong point, Sylvia, that you added on. We need to behave ladylike, and ladies are expected to speak up softly. Yes, a very valid point, and definitely in the Asian countries, yes, I would highly agree to this, that we are expected to speak up in a ladylike manner. That has to be soft enough. What would you add on to this DTM Jaya?
Thank you so very much, Toastmaster Rupasri. I was just thinking of an incident a friend shared a few days back, and he told me that there is a case of a lady where her husband slapped her, and he said that, look, she didn't talk about it in front of her in-laws, and because she wanted to save her relationship, and that's such a kind thing, and they were glorifying women not speaking up against domestic violence, no matter whether it was just a slap or maybe a harsh tone. And I stopped over there and I said, look, this is not something nice to say that the women did not say anything against it, did not speak up to the in-laws because she wanted to save that relationship. We could have said that the man should have saved the relationship and not done that task, but this is how our mindsets are. And even when I told that lady that she needs to speak up, she had her own fears, and she said probably not speaking up is the right thing. And I would say my earlier fellow panelists have said it, that internally we have been raised up in a way that we have been hearing this for long, that women don't speak in a loud voice, women don't laugh in a way that's not feminine, and we are always realize that we are fragile, and that somehow sometimes, rather I would say most of the times, it has caused a change in our mindsets, and that has lowered our self-esteem as well. And then there is a fear of rejection, and that's why we do not even speak up. Even most of the times when I say those women who are not particularly educated or who do not even have safe spaces around, women probably like me who probably come with some kind of privilege, with her working in a professional environment, she still takes a lot of courage to get up and say, look, it's no, look, this is how the women perspectives are. And I would say that it's more complicated. It's not something that we are just talking about it. There is a sense of it that needs to be understood, and rather we need to be sensitized towards it. Over to you, Toastmaster Rupasri.
Thank you, DTM Jaya. In relation to this, I will directly go to this domestic violence, or rather the violence that has been happening with women. As DTM Jaya brought this question into the picture, may I request Simone to add on to this with her experience. I'll just share an instance. There have been few experiences which have been shared by two of my mentees, that they have to save their families. And her parents have taught them, their parents indeed have taught them to, by all means, satisfy the husband, because that is our prime duty. You know, your husband comes first, so it's your prime duty to make him happy. For that, even if you are not agreeing to have intimate relationship at any moment, you are bound to do that. Why? Because you are the wife and your husband wants it, means you have to agree to it. What is your take on this, Simone?
Well, I thankfully am in a very peaceful marriage, but I do have an extended family member who I guess a couple of years ago, she managed to divorce her husband. Her husband was is an alcoholic and was physically violent towards her and her two young boys, to the point where they had to separate out of necessity, and it's just a real heartbreaking story that she told me that her in-laws, and they lived with the in-laws did nothing to protect her or the boys, just kept making excuses for the abusive husband, saying that, oh, he didn't really mean it, and that kind of thing. But maybe the most shocking thing was this woman's own parents. The father in particular did not approve of her leaving her marital home, did not approve of her talking about divorce. Absolutely it absolutely broke their relationship. And to this day, they do not have a good relationship because of this issue. Her father's always felt that she speaks her mind too much, and that's why she got into this trouble, so-called got into this trouble. So, of course, from my perspective, it just sounds nuts, crazy. Obviously, she needed to get away. Now, very luckily, she had a friend in New Zealand, also another extended family member who gave her shelter. So they even helped her to move there with the 2 kids. And so as a result, she's living a peaceful life. Her kids don't have to be afraid of their father anymore. And I'm just so thankful that she was able to get out. It's a shocking story.
I'll take this question to Sylvia. Sylvia, what do you think? What could have happened better? Or rather, how could the lady have protected herself from such harassments? What step she should have taken at the very first time when she was being harassed? What do you think? What is your opinion on this?
See, I don't see a direct response to that as a step, The first question comes, are we even aware of what amounts to abuse? Many times women are not sure. They think, oh, he's beating me up today, but no, he loves me a lot. So there's a confusion over there. What exactly amounts to abuse? So there's a lack of awareness. We don't have enough helplines to support with that. Okay, and that we keep that aside. There is the power dynamic between men and women, where men always come off as stronger. One, they have family backing. For women, as in Simone's example, the parents are not ready to support their daughter, but your in-laws are ready to support their son, even when he's cheating on his wife. So I had a friend who she was in IT. She was working. She was bringing home a salary. She was doing well. She was expected to get up in the morning, cook the food, ensure the evening food is cooked, wash the clothes, dry them, clean the house, everything. And this lady was doing all of that, looking after her 2 children, ensuring that their education, homework, everything is completed. And her husband was interested in another woman, and his parents were supporting him to go ahead with that situation. But her parents were telling her, no, for social reasons, a woman, you've got 2 children, what are you going to do? Try and make this work. And I was shocked at that situation. I was like, even if you don't have support from your parents, you have a job. Take it, go ahead, and let him take care of the children if he's so interested, or if his parents are supporting him. Of course, a mother will not look at such a simple solution, but somewhere you have to take a stand and say, okay, this is enough. And I think somewhere, in spite of today, in earlier times, it was, yes, we did not have the financial power to get out, manage things on your own. But today, in spite of having that financial power, I see many women still accept such situations. And it's mostly because of the social setup that we have. It is considered that a woman holds the family together, and it is her job, in spite of all odds, to go on managing and keeping it together. So
true, and the picture is so damn painful. But it's accepted if the lady is working. Nusrat, what do you think if the lady is not working? Doesn't she have the right to take a step because nobody is there around to help her? So what she should do? Stay there and bear it? What is your take?
Well, yes. So this case of domestic violence, as we have seen from the examples of our other panelists also, is not as easy as just speaking up for yourself, right? There are so many other things involved, like society, family support, financial dependence, a lot of other things. Okay, if a woman is financially dependent, she's financially independent, she has her own financial solvency, she can still think about her options. But if she's completely dependent on her husband, she does not have family support either, in that case she needs to rethink. She does rethink. I mean, what support does she have in that sense? So she's always thinking about what the society will think, how will I manage on my own. So even though the law is there is she can approach, she can call up the police anytime, but then still she doesn't do that, thinking about all of these things. So yes, we need to provide more supportive platform for women. Maybe, there are so many NGOs that are working nowadays to support women who are facing these situations, who are not able to, have any kind of support from their families, nor are they having their financial support. So I think we need to support these kind of organizations even more, so that women who are in these situations can speak up, even if they don't have family support or they don't have financial support either. So this is quite a complicated issue, I would say, which we cannot directly, connect with speaking up, because a woman just speaking up, then what happens after that? What are the consequences of speaking up, right?
Right. So like here, one thing that comes to my mind is that what is needed? Something that is very much needed is maybe a community where a woman can be supported, a community where this lady can be at least made aware what is abuse, a community who will be there beside you to make you realize or make you understand the different steps that you can and you should take in your life. A community is something that we can all look forward to. Agreed, Jaya?
Yes, Toastmaster Upasari, since a lot has been discussed, I would like to highlight what we have said, that whenever we say what can be done, there are a few things. Number one, there are changes in the mindset. So number one, we work around awareness, education, and then second comes towards building that infrastructure for women to speak up, giving them those spaces, and that again comes to giving them financial independence. And thirdly, we advocate for policy changes, and we all need to do these things simultaneously. Even if, for example, we have these policy changes, for example, as mentioned by DTI Minister, that laws are there, but if women are not confident enough to go for these, it's again there is a disparity in it. And again, I always advocate for it that most of the times, even when the women have been given this confidence to speak up and to take all these resources they have, we need to make an enabling environment. Sometimes when women are empowered, but your men side by side are not empowered to take that speaking up of women, it becomes again challenging for those women because they have already crossed that barrier of speaking up, and now not being heard is another barrier. And that's why it's very important that when you are making women are empowered, you are advocating for it, side by side the society needs to understand that as well. And this can be again done through a collective effort. For example, here in this space, if all of us who are aware of it are consciously working around it, then maybe outside us we can do this work. A few days back, in my society, late at night, we heard loud voices of a women, and a lot of us rushed outside to see what happened. For us, it was not serendipitous because we had been hearing such voices, and then suddenly, one of my friends from the neighborhood, she said, oh, probably there is some domestic violence case. And trust me, not a single person stayed over there, and everyone said, oh, it's their personal matter. And every one of us, now we all came from a privileged background. We might have been in having these discourse, but how many of us actually come out, raise our voice? How many of us actually speak up? Apart from having those internalized biases, when actually we are in such a situation. And this is where my call to action would be, that now this is the time that where we need to build up those spaces as well, giving all those people who are vulnerable, to give them this confidence. Over to you.
Wonderful, wonderful, Lithium Jaya. Thank you so much for adding on so much of value. Well, it's time for a question answer session. the floor is open. I can, like, any member from the audience are welcome to raise a question to any one of the panelists. Anyone? Any question? Any question from any one of you?
Gigi and Simone, may I ask you a question?
Please go ahead.
Yes, please.
Yeah. Do you think that a woman is a woman's worst enemy, and why?
Perhaps in some way. I guess the stereotypical woman might tend to think through a lot before making a decision. Maybe, I don't know, that's a stereotypical. In those cases, maybe we, maybe think too much about what if, and rather than just taking the plunge to take action. I think in that circumstance, perhaps I would think that we are our own worst enemy, maybe in that circumstance. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Simone. Jyoti, I hope your question has been answered.
Yes. Thank you so much.
We have another question from Shankar Bhattacharjee. Mr. Shankar.
Good evening. So, I have a question to each and everyone who are spoken about this matter. In South Asian countries like India, Bangladesh, Sri Lanka, Pakistan, so what we see at the time of son marriage, it's about dowry. So mother, what I have experienced, mother also enjoy the dowry, and mother also attune very much about the dowry, the rate of dowry. So mother is also, even girl, she has also feelings about woman. I was supposed to ask that question, last question. Women are the major enemy of. So what is in this question your take? Anyone you can give the answer. At the time of doubt, what is the role of the mother? Like mother also a girl also to be mother, and when she is okay on a role choosing her daughter-in-law, that time she is very much interested to know about dowry, and the conversation, the discussion, she also enjoy. So what is the reason behind it, and what is the awareness?
Thank you, Shankar. We have got your question. Thank you so much. Okay, so I will request Nusrat to answer this question. I'm sure you have understood what Shankar wants, so I'll still summarize the question. Is that even though a mother-in-law is a lady, being a lady, the question is almost similar to one that Jyoti has asked. Being a lady, when she is not willing to give dowry, when the time when she becomes mother-in-law, she's asking for dowry. I am correct, Shankar? Perfect. Nusrat, can you please give an answer to this question?
Thank you, Rupashri. Well, in my case, if I were to share my experience, my mother-in-law never asked for dowry. We never gave her dowry, and when she was marrying her daughter off, she also did not ask for dowry, nor did her my sister-in-law's family ask for dowry. So this dowry culture does not exist in our families, in my family personally, but yes, in our subcontinent it still exists. It has been existing since prehistoric times. So even today, there are women who are involved in asking for dowry and giving dowry. But this is changing. So this is changing with changing times, I believe, because modern couples, they believe, especially in my country, I can see lots of couples marrying off with very simple wedding ceremonies, no exchange of gifts, expensive gifts. So this culture is slowly, I feel, is going away, but this can better improve with a lot of awareness again, that, this whole thing about dowry, it is of no good to anyone in the long run. Why ask for money? Why ask for dowry? Why give dowry? I don't understand this whole culture, in fact. And times are changing, and I think we should also change with changing times. And as the generations will move ahead, I'm sure this culture will completely vanish.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Thank you so much, Nusrat. Well, that was a wonderful panel discussion. So much of information added by the wonderful panelists. What did we summarize here today? We summarized that women have the ability to contribute a lot to this world. When women starts to believe in this, she can change the entire world, and the entire world can become much more beautiful. But for that, she has to step into this world to speak up. Well, it's agreed, as Jaya already mentioned, just by taking a step ahead to speak up will not be enough when her entire family or even the society is not in support to her. But for that, we should make them aware as women. It's our prime duty and responsibility to realize, recognize our power, and make all those wonderful women powerful by standing beside her. Maybe a simple community, a simple word of love, compassion, some empathy can bring a vast change. What we just need to do is be there, support them to speak up. Thank you so much, wonderful panelists, for being there once again. Thank you.